Hey guys, welcome to Spirit Pig. This is the show that explores how to live a fulfilled life. I'm Duncan CJ, and today I'm speaking with Eric Edmeades. Eric is a serial entrepreneur with around 25 years of experience, international business experience, owning, running, starting up and selling companies in a huge variety of different industries. He's also an author, an international speaker who has shared the stage with the likes of Tony Robbins, Les Brown, President Bill Clinton, and Sir Richard Branson. And Eric runs transformational seminars, workshops, and retreats all around the world and has helped people in over 20 countries, I believe, transform their businesses, their relationships, and their health and well-being. So huge honor for being here. Thanks so much, Eric. I really appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Now, I saw a quote from back in 1995, and so this was almost 21 years ago, so this may be completely outdated, but you said, success in life is most easily measured by the number of days you are truly happy. Has your definition changed massively over 21 years, or does that still sound about right?
No, it's right there. It's still right there. It's funny. I didn't even know that got picked up as a meme or a quote or what have you, and then one day somebody wrote to me on Skype, and it was there, and I saw this in their subject line. I'm like, this is 15 years ago. And I go, where did you get that from? And she sent me to a website where she found the quote. And I was like, wow, 10 years on, and it's still very much the way I believe life is. We can measure things monetarily. We can measure things in terms of our family and relationship and all that stuff. But I really, at the end of the day, how much are you enjoying yourself? And I think that is the single best measure of this, regardless of somebody's economic position or anything else.
Yeah. And once a year, I know that you dedicate 2 full days to properly taking stock, analyzing your life, all parts of it, and working out basically where you are now and where you want to be. How important do you feel that exercise is?
It's everything. I mean, I think that if you look at the way most people do life evaluation, most people do life evaluation 2 days of the year. They do it on their birthday and don't do it at all. And then they do it on December 31st. And they, develop a rough idea of the way their life is and the way they would like it to be. And then they make a series of commitments that they generally break before 1 o'clock in the morning on January the 1st. And that's kind of the extent of the vast majority of people's course corrections. And, I like the old metaphor of, how, a plane flying from, LA to Hawaii spends most of its time off course. But the reason it gets there is it's correcting course on a microsecond basis. And so I look at this and go, well, most people are only correcting course mildly once a year, and they're not even doing a really solid course correction. And so, I've had this policy. I won't say I've done it every single year, but I've definitely noticed the years I haven't done it. But, spending 2 days, as you say, evaluating, hey, where am I right now? What's great about that? What could be better? Where would I like to be a year, 2, 3 years from now? And what are the barriers? What are the obstacles that need to be overcome to get there? And by spending that 2 days really, getting into my stuff, getting into my beliefs that might be in the way, values that I might be misaligned about, habits that are holding me back or habits I need to move me forward, then what happens is not only am I having a serious course correction conversation once a year, but I'm also giving myself criteria to correct course on a weekly basis, a daily basis, and in some areas of my life, even on an hourly basis.
And we're looking at all aspects. I mean, we're talking like business, health and relationships, entertainment. And so really to take stock of the full picture.
Yeah. I mean, I generally will pick five fundamental kind of pillar areas: health, well-being, health and well-being, and finance and that kind of stuff. And I'll look at those 5 core areas, but of course you can delve deep into them. Like I have one area that I consider social, and underneath social is your family, your friends, your primary relationship. Those are subcategories within that. And some people say to me, well, Eric, it seems like you take this awfully seriously. It's like, relax a little. And I'm like, what I do not want to do is arrive at the end of my life and go, I wish I'd given this a little more thought. I don't think very many of us will come to the end going, I wish I just spent more time watching Lost. I just don't think anybody's going to feel that way.
Yeah. No, I think almost a lot of us sort of let life happen to us, when you're on a treadmill and you suddenly think shit, 2 years have passed and what have you actually done? So,
yeah.
What one story which I want to ask you about is, I think it was 25 years ago, you were in Vancouver and you heard this talk by this guy, and he discussed how your word is your only real value in life. If people can't trust your word, then you don't have any value. What kind of impact did that have on you?
It was so profound to me. I listened to that talk and I thought a lot about it. And then I started observing, society and the way society treats one's word. And so, I make the joke quite frequently that Hollywood has, depreciated the word promise to the point of ridiculousness, to the point, in fact, that, you now can watch a movie and if somebody promises that they'll be right back, you absolutely know they're not going to be right back. It's almost to that point where they've just taken the word promise and diluted it to being meaningless. And so I decided that in my life I would, having heard that talk, I just thought, I want to be at a place in my life where if I promise something to someone else, but more importantly, frankly, to myself, that it actually transpires, that I will actually follow through. And I think, I often joke that right after that talk, I went a whole year without breaking any promises. And of course, what was the magic formula? I didn't make any, and that's the first step really in making something valuable is reducing the supply of it. You make it a lot more valuable when you cut off the supply. So I cut off the supply of promises. People would ask me, are you going to be at my party on Thursday? I'd go, yeah. And they go, do you promise? And I go, no. Well, you said you'd be there, but you didn't promise. I go, look, I said, yes, it's my intention. My plan is to be there, but I don't promise because promising would mean that if I was driving on my way to your house and suddenly I got a fat tire and then I had to change it and all this stuff, that I'd still have to be there. Whereas if I just say yes, then it's acceptable that maybe stuff happens where I couldn't make it happen. And so I measure promises on a whole nother level. A promise means absolutely without fail, it will happen. And after a year of not making any promises, I slowly started to release the odd promise when somebody asked me to get something done or if I would help them with something or what have you. And I'd say, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And I promise. And then what happened within my circle of friends and within my close relationships is they began to understand that they knew 100% that if I promised something that it was going to happen. And man, that changes everything. It changes the nature of partnerships. It changes the nature of friendships. But the biggest thing that it changed is my own self-esteem. Because if you really think about it, you get to this place where it's like the more often you say something that doesn't come true, then the less faith you have in yourself. You get to a point where, I just keep saying I'm going to get this done. I keep saying I'm going to work out more and then I never do, and then that is a, negative self-propagating spiral of lack of achievement. And so as much as keeping promises to other people became really valuable to me, the thing that really became valuable to me was keeping promises to me. And, to this day, if I make myself a promise, I will keep it. This is really important because you see, the vast majority of us don't really recognize that we're all a little schizophrenic. I mean, we all are. We have the one voice that says, I'm not going to eat that stuff anymore. And then the other voice that later on goes, yeah, but now it's a special occasion. Right? I mean, it's a form of schizophrenia. It's a time perceptive, or it's a time perception induced schizophrenia, where in one time period we feel a certain way, and in another time period, another personality comes out and feels another way. And the problem is the one that we should be looking to is the one with the higher purpose. The one with the higher purpose is the one saying, hey, I'm here to take care of your temple, your body, your health for the long haul. So no, you shouldn't be eating that thing. And then the other one, the hedonist is going to say, yeah, but just this once. The problem is just this once is every day, or every week or what have you. And so I got to a place where I didn't break promises to myself either. And I learned a lot of lessons about this. Like, I am really careful about promises. I one day promised myself that I would work out every single day for a year. I hated that promise. I hated that promise for a year because here's what would happen is this happened. I mean, with my schedule, the way I live, I'm like, there are days where working out is just really not practical, no matter how committed you are. And so I would come to the end of 2 flights and I'd get to my hotel room and I'd time zones and I'm tired and I'd lie in bed, pull the blanket up and I'd just be dozing off and I'd be checking in with my day and I'd go, oh my God, I haven't worked out today. And my promise is that I have to work out today. Now, what most people would do at that place, they go, I'll just work out twice as hard tomorrow. Yeah. That's not keeping your promise. My promise was to work out every day. I got out of the bed and I did the workout. And I had defined a minimum workout, which was, I think, 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, and, 10 minutes of some sort of cardio. So out to the hotel I go up and down the stairs for 10 minutes. I do my thing and so on. And then I sleep. And so the lesson I got from this is just to even be more careful about making promises.
Yeah, you mentioned one about what the sugar is, and like, rather than being like, I'm going to give up sugar forever, why don't you say, hey, I'm going to give up sugar for what, like a month, and say,
Yeah.
hey, this is a promise you can keep, rather than like be your own like sort of enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
And I
interesting.
think you can do it for too short a period of time as well. Like, a lot of my, I know a lot of people that are in Alcoholics Anonymous, for example. And, frankly, I love the basic idea of one day at a time. I think it's kind of cool, but I know me and I'm not an alcoholic. I don't even drink alcohol. So, there's no chance of me becoming one. But, if I were an alcoholic, the idea of one day at a time for me would be too many decisions to make. Like I don't want to have to decide that every day. What I would want to do is, and I understand that, partially it's a metaphor, but what I would want to do is start off by saying, I'm going to make a promise that for 30 days, I'm not going to do this. And then I'm going to make another promise for another 30 days or whatever. So you got to kind of figure out this, in my mind, you got to figure out the window that's both long enough to be compelling and short enough that it's not overwhelming.
Yeah. What do you mean by happiness and fulfillment in life is driven by our ability to overcome outdated software? What's that about?
I don't know where you even found that. That comes from a talk that I've only ever done once, and I'm actually, funny enough, about to do it again at Awesomeness Fest in Greece. But it's a talk about the realities of evolutionary psychology, our genetic makeup. If you consider the lifespan of Homo sapiens and our immediate predecessors, all the way back to say Australopithecine, we've got, say, a 5 million year history on this planet. And for 4.9999999 ad nauseum percentage of that, we didn't have YouTube and Google and fast food and sugar. We didn't have those things. We didn't have cities with phenomenal numbers of people. We didn't have cars. What we had was the bush. What we had was the wilderness. And so, and if you think a little bit further, if you think a little bit deeper into this and you consider how many ancestors you have, and you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, 16,000. We're only a few generations back, and 8,000 people went into you, and a few more beyond that, and 1 million people went into making who you are. And they are the people that survived when the infant mortality rate was 80%. Which means that for every million that survived, 8 million didn't even make it. You are an unbelievably unlikely occurrence. You are. I am. We're unbelievably unlikely occurrences. But in order for us to get here, what had to happen was our ancestors had to evolve the ideal physiology and the ideal psychology for surviving in that environment. But we've since moved to a new environment. And the new environment, the best example of this is that there is a fundamental and powerful craving among Homo sapiens to eat sweet things. It's by design. We're supposed to have that craving because in nature, sweet things were seasonal, rare, and good for us. So we had to have a craving to go get them because they wouldn't be around long. So if you didn't have a craving, you'd go, I'll get it next week. Well, it's gone next week. So we have this undeniably strong craving, old software. But we live now in a time when sugar is everywhere. And of course, the food manufacturers are all over this. And that's why now in the United States, 60% of all production food has refined sugar or corn syrup in it. Because what they're doing is they're appealing to your base instincts and damaging you by default.
And then so we've outgrown that, and it's just, has evolution just like not caught up, and so it's just weird.
It can't.
Yeah.
Evolution is a painfully slow process. You're talking like, it takes like 1 million years to make a substantive impact on a species. It takes 5 million years to create a species. Now, obviously, these numbers are not exact science, and different species have different what you might call evolutionary velocities. The fruit fly with a 24-hour life cycle has 365 generations a year. We have one generation per 40 years. So every species has a different kind of evolutionary window here. But we are genetically the same as we were 200 years ago, the same as we were 2,000 years ago. We're not substantially different. If you think about the way stress works, stress was meant to be a short-term adrenaline firing, save your ass in the worst situation, instant
save a tooth tiger, get the hell out of there.
Get the hell out. Fight, flight, or freeze, right? Those are the only things. Like, as somebody, you probably know, I do a lot of wildlife photography and nature conservation work. I have, no kidding, nearly been killed by rhinos. And I've walked routinely. Just in December, I was walking in the bush in South Africa, and I was not in a safari vehicle, and 14 lions ran out of the bush in front of us with cubs. I mean, this is not the safest thing in the world, right? So in that moment, you're supposed to experience some stress. Your heart rate is supposed to pick up. Your adrenal glands are supposed to fire, and you're supposed to start breathing in the top of your lungs, and all those things to create fight, flight, or freeze. And of course, now what happens is people get a visa bill and they want to fight, flight, or freeze. You know, what's going on there, right? And then and also, like if it's 10,000 years ago, and I go hunting and I bump into a lion, and you go, "Hey, Eric, how's your hunting trip?" I go, "Well, it was pretty scary. We saw a lion." And then that's the end of it, right? 3 weeks later, you're going to go, "Hey, Eric, do you remember when you saw that lion?" "Yeah, I think so. I mean, that was like 3 weeks ago, right?" Now, somebody asks you, "So why didn't you get that promotion at work this week?" "Well, when I was 12, there was this lion." And we carry this stuff with us forever.
So what can we, knowing this, understanding this, how can we counter this? What kind of things can we put in place to sort of...
Well, this is a really long conversation, longer obviously than we have time for an interview. But, what we're really talking in a sense is a little bit like biohacking. It's like taking a look and saying, hey, and I don't mean the kind of biohacking where they actually attach stuff to you. I mean internal biohacking where, my metaphor is you've got this consciousness, your body, your mind. And the metaphor is that you have ROM, read-only memory. This is your instincts. It went into, this is what you inherited. You were born with instincts, ROM, read-only memory. Then what you've got is RAM. So this is the place where you think. It's where you hold thoughts in your consciousness. Like in that moment, I'm thinking about a certain kind of car, so I see that car wherever I look. But then on top of that, you have apps. And apps are the lessons that you learn in life. You have rule apps. Like, most people have learned that public speaking is terrifying, right? So that's an app that they run, how to become terrified of public speaking. It's a ridiculous app. Nobody was born with this app, but most people run the app nonetheless. And so what you have to start to take a look at is that some of those apps can actually be taken out. They can be taken out, deleted, replaced, and what have you. But when you start talking about the ROM-based applications, the stuff that's built right into the operating system, now it's tough, right? So for example, the craving for sugar is built right into the operating system. And now sugar's around us all the time. Right. So what you then start to look at is what are the hacks that I can use to get past that? Well, let's look at nature. Sugar, real simple one. We wouldn't have had the craving for sugar all the time. We would have had the craving when it was appropriate to have it. How would we know it was appropriate to have it? Well, because we'd be eating it, which would tell us that it was in season, which would trigger the craving for more. So we all know this. When you eat sugar, it makes you want to eat more sugar. We know that.
Yeah.
So then what you have to do is make a promise. Where the promises come in, because the promises are one of the biggest tools in the world of biohacking. If you can figure out how to make and keep a promise to yourself, you can overcome these instincts significantly more easily. So now you make a promise yourself, 30 days without sugar, right? And if you can maintain that, but bearing in mind, most people have no idea what sugar means. Like they don't realize that sugar means a million things, right? I mean, potatoes are sugar. At the end of the day, they're all of those things. Like if you eat potatoes or bread, they're going to make you want to eat chocolate, or they're going to make you want to eat more potatoes and bread. But you do 30 days without that stuff, and guess what? Then your body gets this signal, oh, the sweet things are no longer in season. This craving is now pointless, and it goes away. So I do not crave sugar. Like I check into my hotel room. I think my wife threw them away. Hang on. Where are these things? I check into my hotel room, and there's a bag of, chocolate nuts or something. I've been in this room for a week. I'm in Copenhagen. There's no chance of me eating them. They're super expensive, super high quality, beautiful things in a gorgeous hotel. There's no chance that I would eat them because I don't want to. But I would have wanted to if I hadn't broken the addiction, if I hadn't biohacked that craving.
So interesting. I love it. I always think it's so fascinating, like learning actually through back in like caveman days, how there's so many things that we're still holding on to. What is certainty? Like, why is it so important to let go of the need for certainty?
Well, first of all, it's an illusion to begin with. There is no certainty. There is no certainty of anything. I mean, this is crazy and probably getting cliched at this point. I've been saying it for years and years. So, and so have others. So I think it'll be a cliche soon enough. But you are right now sitting on a rock that's rotating at an incredibly high speed and whipping through space at 65,000 miles per hour. And there are comets all over the place. And when you look at a picture of the solar system and it looks all neat and tidy with the planets, you should take a look at the solar system with all the cosmic dust and materials and rocks in it. And you'd realize it's a crapshoot out there, man. Like we exist through the grace of the right accidents happening every single day where things aren't, what I'm getting at is that certainty is already an illusion. And so when we become attached to certainty, what that makes us want to do is hold on to things. And when you hold on to things, you can't move.
Do you feel that, I know, what is sort of esoteric, like, do you kind of feel like, do you believe that kind of, if you trust in life, that it sort of take care of you, or kind of, where's your kind of thoughts with regards to that?
Yeah, you're kind of going almost into the sort of, spiritual, theological, is there a God? And all this kind of stuff.
Just open that up right at the end of the interview. Is there a God?
Yeah, why not? Why don't we just do that when we have 45 seconds? I'm kidding. But, here it is. Here's another one of my little, meme quotes, if you put it. But like, this is one of my basic ideas, is that however you view your past will color your view of the future. And so what that means is that if you regard your past with anger, fear, resentment, and hatred, and all this, negative emotion about things that happened in your past, then when you turn around and look at the future, you will naturally make the assumption that your future is going to be full of negativity, anger, hatred, and resentment. And so one of my fundamental core beliefs is the more grateful you can become with your with your past, the more grateful you can become for your past, the greater faith you will have in the future. So it is not that by having faith, the universe will start taking care of you. It's already taking care of you. Right now, it's taking care of you, and it's giving you whatever you need in the moment to experience whatever. And we did not come here to be bored. Jim Rohn used to say, if you bought a book and the first chapter was boring, everything's going to be okay. You might read the second chapter, but man, if everything was still okay by the end of the second chapter, you're not going to finish that book. Well, you didn't come here into this life for everything to be okay all the time. You didn't. You came into the life for drama and experience and love and heartbreak and disappointment and elation, all of it. I don't even think you could taste elation if you didn't have disappointment. I don't think you'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so what I take a look at is I'm saying, all right, the more grateful I can become for my past, if I can get to a place where I am quite literally grateful for everything that's ever happened to me, everything I've done or not done, if I can get to that plane of absolute gratitude for my past, then when I turn around and I look to my future, I'm going to go, well, that doesn't look very nice, but I'll be grateful for it one day. And I'll give you the most perfect example of this is that in August of this year, my wife and I arrive home, and the driver that we hired to get us back to the house, we stopped off at the grocery store to pick up groceries. We hadn't been home in 6 months. We had almost everything we owned with us because we'd been on tour for so long, traveling all over the world, working with people all over the world. And all of a sudden we get home, and while we're in shopping, the driver who we knew, had some kind of weird family problem, I suppose, and he arranged to have everything we owned stolen, everything. Laptops. I had just spent a week with the Hadza Bushmen with original photography, with questions that I'd collected I had questions in from John Gray and Tony Robbins and all these cool people that sent me questions to ask the Bushmen, and I'd done all these interviews on tape, all the video gone. I just been with the chimpanzees of Mahale and Greystoke, wild chimpanzees, all these photos gone because there was just too much data to dump to the cloud from Africa. So all these things are gone. Laptops gone, passports gone, money gone, clothing gone, jewelry gone, all gone. So how do you feel? Anger, resentful? I did. I looked in the back of the truck and I felt absolutely terrible. I was so full of anger and resentment. And then I stopped for a second and I said, wait a minute now. How does anger or resentment help me at the moment? If the guys were here right now, anger could be helpful, right? Adrenaline, anger, go beat somebody up, get my stuff back. But they're gone. So now there's no point. And my poor wife's over here crying, upset, inconsolable. And in that moment, I said to myself, but Eric, everything that's ever happened to you in the past, everything that you've ever regarded as an absolute calamity. I had an employer completely scam me so badly once that I had to quit my job. We're living in a foreign country, and I thought it was the most terrible thing in the world. Ended up being the greatest gift. When I was 18 years old, somebody lit me on fire. I had to have my arm rebuilt from skin they took from my legs. I am so grateful that happened. So if I can be grateful of those things, maybe one day I'm going to look back on this empty van and I'm going to be grateful that all the stuff was stolen. And then my mind said, no, you're not. And I said, no, maybe I am. But if I was going to be, why might it be? And I thought I couldn't think of something. And I was like, no, but just think of one thing. What could you one day be grateful about this event? And I said, I can think of one thing. Neither my wife nor me has a laptop, and it'll take 2 weeks to get replacement laptops because we use the super maxed out Macs, and I got to fly to New York to go get one because we live in the Caribbean. I had 2 weeks without a laptop. You know what? That's going to be really good for our relationship. We're going to hang out, go for more walks on the beach than we usually do, nice dinners out. We'll cook more because we don't have our computers to distract us and, be working all the time. I thought, actually, that's going to be pretty cool. Plus, we'll get to do a lot more kiteboarding than we usually do because I have all this work to do and now I can't do it. And then also my wife hasn't, her Her Mac is like 3 years old. She won't let me buy a new one for her, and I'm her IT director, right? So I have to fix everything. So now I get to buy her new Mac. And I started looking at all this stuff. And then finally I had this big realization that, holy crap, if this happened to us 5 years ago, it would have been heartbreaking, because we had put a lot of money into a company we bought and we were in deep financial trouble. And if we lost $40,000 worth of stuff, passports and everything, back then, it would have been soul destroying. And I'm like, thank God it happened now. And by the end of this whole conversation, I started going, I'm going to get to buy my wife all new clothes. That's going to be great. I'm going to buy myself a new Mac. I got this going on. We're going to go kiteboarding all week. I started going, this is wicked. I thought, you know what? I've been wanting to live without a cell phone. I've been wanting to experiment about life without a cell phone for ages, but I've never had this one. Now my phone is gone and I'm not buying a new one. Awesome. By the way, I lived for 6.5 months without a mobile phone after that. 6.5 months, no mobile phone. I wrote an 80,000 word fiction book with no effort. I got more done in the following 6 months after all our stuff got stolen than I got done in the previous 2 years. And I got a glimpse of that as I was looking into the back of the van. And so I turned to my wife and I said to her, everything's going to be okay. And she says, what do you mean everything's going to be okay? All our stuff is gone. And I said, let me just tell you right now, with confidence, with certainty, I can tell you, everything is going to be okay. You and I are about to have the funnest 2 weeks we've had in a whole long time. I promise. And she stopped crying. And she started to feel better. And then we had the best 2 weeks you could imagine. And then I wrote a book. And then I got more work done than I can imagine. And we're having the most incredible year in our business because I had 6 months of completely different perspective.
It's a great story. What does a fulfilled life mean to you?
It means enjoying it. It means enjoying it. And that means that, whatever you are, be a good one. Like, when I was with the Bushmen, Tony Robbins had asked me this question for the Bushmen. He gave me 2 questions to ask the Bushmen. And he said, ask them this: what happens after you die? And what's the purpose of life? So I asked the Bushmen, I said, what happens after you die? And he goes, I don't know, you're not there. So, and I go, okay, but what happens after you die? And he goes, well, the villagers will usually move villages because after a while, the body will start to stink. I go, that's what happens after you die? I know. What happens to you after you die? And he goes, well, nothing, you're dead. And I thought that was fantastic. They had this like no theology, just like, it's over. You're here, enjoy yourself. So I said, okay, well, with that in mind, then what's the purpose of life? And he said, to be whatever you are fully. And I think of that as, this is a Bushman. We're not talking about somebody with Facebook. He doesn't own a phone. He has no money. He doesn't farm. He literally is a hunter-gatherer living what we think of as a Stone Age existence, right? And he says, the purpose of life is to be whatever you are, to be it well. And I said, well, yeah, but okay, you're a Bushman. He said, he goes, I'm a Bushman, so I should be a good Bushman, and you're a city person, so you should be a good city person. And I said, okay, that's fair, but what if I want to be a Bushman? And he goes, then decide. Become one, and become one properly. And I think that's it right there. Fulfillment is in being the best possible version you can be of yourself and enjoying your life to the deepest possible extent you can.
I love that. What is one thing all our listeners can do today that have a massive positive effect on their lives?
In a very real way, your question violates my entire principle because everybody has their own level of enjoyments. I mean, in a crazy sense, I would have to say, well, listen, all the serial killers, if they're going to have the best day, they got to go kill somebody. That's where they get their enjoyment from, right? I'm kidding. But the point is that we all have our different things. For some people, going outside and going for a walk every day is exactly the right answer. For other people, like my normal stock answer, if you wanted my normal simple stock answer, I'd say make people smile. That'd be it. You want to make a big difference in your life, then your goal is go out into the world and make other people smile, because it will make you feel good every time you make them smile. But the reality is that doesn't get everybody off. Not everybody is into that, right? And so, I'm not sure there is one thing. And so with that, I'll take the chicken out answer and I'll say, if you really want to do one thing to make sure you live the most fulfilling life, to live the happiest possible life you can, take care of your body.
Last but not least, how can people stay in touch?
The website, obviously, ericedmeades.com. I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/ericedmeades. I'm on Twitter. I'm fairly active on social media. And I do, a series of workshops and lectures and seminars around the world. I do really cool leadership programs where I take people up Kilimanjaro. So, if you're up to serious adventure, then you definitely got to look me up. And those are the best ways to keep in touch.
Eric, thank you so much. I really appreciate you speaking to me today.
No worries. It's been fun.